Up, up, and away! Hello everyone, welcome to my review of the Season 2 premiere of Supergirl titled The Adventures of Supergirl. Before I go any further, I want to specify that there will be spoilers in this review. Well, we're back everyone. This season premiere picks up directly where the Season 1 finale left off, with a Kryptonian rocket ship crashing into the Earth, and with a new inhabitant inside. And there's not much revealed in the episode about who the inhabitant is, but if you are a fan of the Superman comic books, you know this is going to be Mon-El. Mon-El is another Kryptonian, obviously also from Krypton, the same as Clark and Kara. If you are a big fan of Supergirl like I am, then you probably already knew that we were going to get our first appearance of Superman in this episode. And it's one thing to hear about it, it's one thing to see the promo photos for, or see the set photos for, and it's another thing to actually see it on screen. And I have to say, in my DC Comics fanboy-loving heart, I loved every minute of this episode. Most specifically, where Supergirl and Superman were on screen together. Those were just magical moments that I didn't think I would see really ever. I didn't think we would reach this point where we could have so much superhero goodness all in one television series, all in one episode. I mean, we've seen glimpses of these characters before in other forms, specifically on the show Smallville, but never really to this fully fleshed out form. In Smallville, Clark Kent really never made the jump from just Clark Kent to Superman. He got close to it, and we got a glimpse there at the very end of that series of Clark Kent as Superman, but we've never seen him in a fully fleshed out form like this. Like, this is someone who's already gone through all kinds of villains and adventures and stuff like that. We learned in the episode that he's dealt with Lex Luthor before. Now Lex Luthor is serving 30 life sentences in a prison. We're introduced to Lena Luthor, who is Lex Luthor's adopted sister. We get all this Superman type stuff in this episode, yet the show is still able to have the story revolve around Supergirl, which I personally really like, because this is Supergirl's show. She is still the main character. The plot really needs to revolve around her. And I think they're doing an excellent job with introducing all of these Superman elements, but still having it revolve around her. As we saw in the introduction of Superman, when he flies in to help her save that spaceship, he readily asks her, "Do you want me to help you, or do you have this?" You know, she's like, "Sure, cuz, why not?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do this." But let me calm down my fanboy-loving heart right now and actually take a look at the episode. Like I said earlier, initially there is a Kryptonian spaceship that crash lands on Earth, and that is picked up by John Jones and his group, and they bring it back to a new fancy lab that happens to be in a giant skyscraper, no longer this bunker in the desert, which I guess is kind of a shift, because the show is shifting from CBS to the CW, so we're getting new sets, new scenery, stuff like that, because the show will no longer be shot in Los Angeles, it'll be shot in Vancouver, Canada, so that makes sense that we would get a completely new buildings and new setting and stuff like that. So we're at this new shiny facility, and we get our first kind of glimpse at this new Kryptonian. Like I said, Mon-El. Mon-El is another Kryptonian. We don't really get a huge glimpse into him in the episode, we really just get a small introduction into just him being there, so we'll probably get that reveal later on, perhaps later when he wakes up from whatever type of hibernation sleep that he's in. What we do learn in the episode is that Kira still has a lot of life choices to make. She is still dealing with personal issues, specifically her relationship with Jimmy Olsen, and are they going to take the next step and become an official couple or something like that. In the episode, we learn that she's kind of grown past that. She's kind of grown past almost these, I would say, generic human-type emotions, or something like that, where she knows that she is meant for larger life things. I think she's starting to embrace more of who she is as a Kryptonian, who she is as an individual, which is kind of nice to see, because, we always try to kind of group in these larger-than-life characters into our humanistic type society, and they're not. They are larger than life for a reason, and it's nice to see that Kara's starting to realize that. Also, with her job at Catco, Cat Grant, portrayed by Callista Flockhart, is back on the show. It's great to see that she was able to carry over from CBS to the CW, because I think that she is a fantastic character, and surprising to me because I never gave Cat Grant much thought as a major character, but I think Callista Flockhart has done fantastic work with the character. And in this episode, we have this wonderful scene between Cat Grant and Kara, where Cat Grant basically tells her, you're at a crossroads in your life and you're afraid to either move forward or stand still. She used the metaphor of taking a leap, a leap forward into the unknown, into the new. In the end of the episode, we get the reveal that Kara is now going to be a reporter, just like her cousin Clark. And I guess that kind of makes sense. It kind of gives her more abilities to be more mobile and to have her ear to the ground and to be at scenes firsthand. Perhaps she'll actually be there in person now doing some investigative journalism, which is a nice change of pace for the show. It also kind of makes it a little bit more like Superman, I guess. I mean, I don't know if that was intentional in any way, but I kind of like that we've reached that point where this can be Kara's show and she can still adapt certain Superman attributes. It's nice to see that the budget still allows for John Jones to turn into the Martian Manhunter. There were a lot of speculation if the show would actually have enough in the CGI budget to make that work. And it's nice to see that they still do. I don't know how much times we're going to see it over the course of the season, but it's nice to know that they have that capability to do so. When it comes to the overall transition from CBS to CW, I thought it was rather seamless. I mean, there's going to be probably some noticeable differences going on throughout the season. Perhaps the CGI won't be used as much. Perhaps we won't get as many shots of Supergirl flying or things like that. For the first premiere, it seemed pretty seamless. I mean, there was some CGI issues when we got to the spaceship flying over the Earth. It looked really, really CGI-ish, but I think that's kind of unavoidable on most network television series, not exclusive to this one. And let me just talk about Superman for a moment. I think Tyler Hoechlin did a great job of giving us kind of an old school flavor of the Big Blue Boy Scout. It's interesting because he is not the typical physical size that Superman is that we've seen in the past. We're kind of used to now seeing Henry Cavill, who is a very large, muscular version of Superman, and that's more, I guess, for the cinematic world. Tyler Hoechlin's version, I think, works well in this world. I mean, he's kind of on the same physical basis as everyone around him. There aren't these giant muscular superheroes walking around, so he doesn't look out of place. One of the best aspects of this episode was the relationship between Kara and Clark. They seemed like they knew each other. They seemed like they were friends, they were cousins, they were close family members. They seem like they've known each other for years, and it was kind of amazing to see that on screen because we've never seen these characters interact with one another before in the physical sense. Yeah, we've seen them send like text messages back and forth and stuff like that, but never that physical rapport with one another. When they're fighting those drones, when they're saving that spaceship, and when they're just talking to each other walking through a park, it's all so natural, and I was really impressed by the acting and writing ability in this episode to really capture how organic that relationship is. They also hinted at a relationship between the Martian Manhunter and Superman. They've had past dealings with one another, which really shows how lived in this world feels. It doesn't feel like an origin in any way, like these aren't the first time these characters are meeting. This world feels so lived in, which is great to see because then that opens up avenues to perhaps other properties that they want to explore. I don't know about anyone else, but I caught a reference to Gotham in the episode, and I don't want to read into it too much. It opened up an avenue that I was glad to hear about, but if Gotham exists in this world, perhaps we'll get Batman eventually. I don't know. I don't know if Warner Brothers will be willing to do that, since they've always concentrated Batman on the big screen so much, but if that comes down the line, this fanboy-loving heart just may explode. As soon as they brought up the name John Corbin, I knew we were going to get Metallo. Granted, I had already heard through news stories that Metallo would be the big bad that Supergirl and Superman would team up to fight, but just to hear the name and to know that that's coming is kind of a cool thing. They did do Metallo on Smallville for a small amount of time, so it's not the first time we've seen the character on screen, but it's the first time we've seen him in this television universe. The one thing I'm curious about is exploring Lena Luthor's character some more. Is she going to be kind of a Lex Luthor type character? Because I thought we already had a Lex Luthor type character in this series, in Maxwell Lord, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with that character. Out of all of the premieres of the superhero television series that I've talked about, this is probably my favorite. But that being said, the premiere episodes for all of the shows have been very strong, which is a good start to these seasons. I'm very curious where Supergirl goes from here. I know I will definitely be watching, but that being said, this has been my review of the Season 2 premiere episode of Supergirl titled The Adventures of Supergirl. If you like this video, please stick around because there will be a lot more episode reviews of superhero television series like Gotham, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Flash, Arrow, and maybe Legends of Tomorrow.